let's look at the situation right here. Pinning with your left, executing the middle knuckle fist with your right. Why? Well, you need the pin. If you don't pin, your opponent can control you. You need to control your opponent. He's giving you his hand. Don't allow him to have options with his hand. Pin it tightly. Make sure your elbow is anchored because your opponent is going to fight you on this. He's going to try to pull away possibly, right? Make sure your elbow is anchored, which also automatically minimizes your target exposure, so you're not like that with your face wide, open and exposed. Right? Everything is anchored. It makes you stronger and it makes you also safer, right? Now look at the middle knuckle fist. When executed properly, this is an excellent example of using point of origin. Now many people, if you look at this from the side view, many people will pull their arm back in contemplation of that middle knuckle fist. Well, that'll slow you down. That's not what you do. Keep your upper arm where it's at. Don't move your elbow back. You can raise your forearm and already shape your middle knuckle fist and already turn your palm upward, because that way you have torque towards the end of the strike. You can do all that without any retraction of your arm, so that you're already relatively close to your target with that middle knuckle fist. And from here you are perfectly aligned to now complete a traditional middle knuckle fist, like a vertical punch, same torquing action and everything, right? You can use the body rotation and body alignment together with that, and it's a very forceful strike to a target that's extremely close and easy to reach, and your opponent can't even cover because he's reaching out, so he's opening up that target. And if he's pulling you in, he's helping you strike him, because now you're borrowing his force. I hope that makes sense. We'll talk about that more later too. But the point is, the reason why we do this first move, at least with the right arm, is point of origin. It's one of the fastest things that we can do right here and still have a really good effect with it. Usually you would probably not select a middle knuckle fist to the armpit as a great strike. If I want to strike my opponent and really knock him out, the armpit isn't usually what I aim for. But in this case it makes sense because of the target that's available. The environment is going to dictate how to take advantage of point of origin. And in this case the environment is just the opponent. Right? So if you continue now to look at the next step of this technique, it's going to become glaringly obvious how path of least resistance and point of origin are the things that had been consulted in deciding the next course of action. In other words, what's my next move? Well, let's see what point of origin tells us. In this case, we have now a heel palm and an extended outward block that's next in this technique. But they are not the regular heel palm that you usually learn when you're in a horse stance, nor is it the regular extended outward block that you usually learn in a horse stance. These basics are now completely altered and modified. Look at your middle knuckle fist, how it is the starting point of your extended outward block. You're using the extended outward block in this case because you had your arm extended, even though usually that's not how you execute an extended outward block. But here we're actually blocking with the arm and coming back. We are actually retracting our block. That's not usually what you do with an extended outward block. But here it's absolutely the right thing to do, because it's actually just reverse motion that does something for you. You strike on the way out, you block on the way back, right? Your left hand, it does a palm to either to the bridge of the nose of your opponent. It depends on how your opponent's face is turned, right? If he's sideways, you might hit him in the jaw hinge or temple area, wherever. You can hit him in the nose. You have to hit wherever you are getting a good angle of incidence, wherever you're getting a good 90-degree angle to strike with, right? Again, that's a subject for a later video. But the point is, from this position, I'm not going to do a traditional heel palm. A traditional heel palm starts here, comes out like that, kind of like a punch does, right? Torques over at the end, it's a linear strike. That's not the kind of heel palm you do in this technique. That would make no sense at all. That would slow you down. There's not even a target available for that. Not from here. If I do a traditional heel palm, where am I hitting, right? This torques from a finger up position to a finger sideways or fingers out position. From an elbow down position to an elbow out position, because that gives you torque. That is a forceful strike that you can enhance with the remainder of your body now. If I just go from here and just hit with just my forearm, the rest of my body isn't helping at all. That's not a forceful strike. Does this make sense? So look at how both of these basics were then modified based on what? Based on point of origin. Point of origin is the only thing we really truly have to consult right here to figure out what's the best next move. Now, path of least resistance goes right in there with that too. We're going to talk about that more later. It's going to confuse the issue if I put all these together too much. Okay? Now, look at the next strike. We've just executed this extended outward block in the heel palm. Right? Now, this is where most people can see that this is a really good example of point of origin. You're already right here in the inside of your opponent's arm, a lot like one of our yellow belt techniques does. And so you can just follow the arm to the head. Right? You can track up the arm and possibly strike again to the temple, the bridge of the nose, whatever is available. Right? And it might be a hammer fist strike, it might be a raking knuckle strike. That's not really that relevant, and that will be adjusted depending on that situation at that moment. You got to be able to do either of those. Right? But once you execute that strike, don't stop and retract. Again, you follow through and make sure that the ending point of that motion becomes a good starting point for your next motion. Or we can say that we're going to take advantage of the ending point of that motion and then decide or consider that when we decide on the next move. So in other words, I strike through, I come back a little bit with my left arm, I don't even have to move my elbow back. Leave your elbow where it's at. Strike, bring that hand back, and now look at where your hand is at. And when you look at the amount of travel that you now have available from that point of origin down to the hammer fist to the groin, that's a good strike. That's a nice setup. All you have to do here, this is why we turn to the reverse bow right here, because your body is going to do half the work and the arm is going to do the other half. Between both of those changes in motion, you can have an almost immediate strike down to the groin that is so rapid your opponent is not going to be able to stop that very easily at all. But why did we do the hammer fist? Point of origin. We had to decide what we were going to do after the previous strike, and we decided to follow through just a tad. Is it a setup right here? Is it a chambering? Tiny bit. I'm not leaving my arm completely. I was coming back a tiny bit, but not much. And it doesn't take long to do that. And it's certainly much less than a full all-out retraction of the arm. Right? And again, if you look at the next move in the technique, same thing. And here's a good example of borrowing force. Right? You hit the guy in the groin, he's going to probably bend over forward, so he's going to come right into your next back knuckle. Why do you use the next back knuckle? Everybody? Because of point of origin, right? Because look, that having your arm down like this is an excellent starting point for a very forceful back knuckle coming right back up to your opponent's face. Okay, if I wanted to hit my opponent in the face, I would love to have this much travel in order to develop power in. That's great. And point of origin gives us that. So even though in one way point of origin sometimes robs us of the traveling distance because we're picking something that's closer, Mr. Parker figured out how to put that traveling distance back in instantaneously by using your body. You get that? Okay, we did talk about body alignment and body momentum a little bit. And again, there's going to be a separate lesson just on that, because body momentum is actually more complex than what people are aware of, right? And we do have to consider height, depth, and width with that. So again, right now we're not going to get that detailed. But here's the thing. If I have a strike that has a short amount of traveling distance, and there's a potential that I don't have that much power, I can enhance it with my body. So if, for example, let's take a very basic example. Let's just take an inward block. You're stepping back, you're executing an inward block. It's very much point of origin. It's like just, you know, as long as you do have to raise your hand up, right? But once you're up with your hand up, bam, that is a good point of origin type of block, right? How do you enhance the power of the block? Well, first you make sure it's aligned properly. The bone structure does the work for you. Don't do a circular block like they do in Japanese hard styles. Don't. Because if you get caught halfway through that block, you have nothing. Like, inward block in Kenpo is usually linear. You set it up, you got to create that angle of efficiency right at the beginning of the, the last half, I guess, of your block. Right? By the time you're halfway through your block, it's perfectly aligned. If your opponent made contact sooner and you didn't get a chance to fully extend that block, but you're rotating your body into your stance, you're still executing your block. You're still making it work. But if it was a circular block, that would not be the case. Your arm wouldn't even be stopping your opponent's arm yet, if he was faster. It's not always going to be perfect where you stop the punch completely before it touches you. Punches will hit you and nick you, and you blocking 95% of the rest of the power of your opponent away. That's still a good block. If I only get hit by 5% of your power, I'll take that. That's still a good block, right? So even if you get, let's say, nicked a little bit, you should still be able to complete your block. And proper alignment and body momentum give you that. They make it possible to do that. Okay? So if you look right here, once the contact is made, the body gives you the force to be able to complete this. Okay? So so are we done? Oh no, there's more. There's more. Major and minor moves. Because again, there's two ways that I can think of right at the top of my head on how major and minor moves relate to this. Number one is really filling dead space. In other words, if I do an inward block, extended outward block combination, and I move by your face, right? I'm right in front of your face when I do that, right? Well, I could just simply ice slice in between the two blocks, like some of the Kenpo techniques are showing us, and it's not slowing me down. It doesn't slow my block down. See, people don't understand major and minor move concepts that much. Sometimes they think that they are trading a minor move, or excuse me, a major move for a minor move. And so then there comes the philosophy of, well, I don't want to do that. I want to only have like one punch kill attitude, right? Shotokan people criticize Kenpo people for that. They said, oh no, we don't waste our time with minor moves. We only do one punch kill. Yeah, so do we. So do we. Your strike is always supposed, one good strike should finish the fight. Problem is your first strike might not be that. You might have to do a couple of strikes before you finally get in one good strike, right? So you can't just have the Shotokan attitude, okay, I throw one punch and I'm done. You don't know that. You don't know if the punch worked or not. You better have another move right afterwards, until you are done, right? But the point is this. Minor moves, other than filling dead space, minor moves can enhance your technique dramatically because of point of origin again. If my hand happened to be on your shoulder, maybe I was checking you or grabbing you, whatever, and you're going to punch me with your right arm now, and I'm going to use my arm that's extended and use it to block with and come across. That would not be a bad idea, because from that point of origin I can do a really good block. I can go really quick, faster than my left hand. My left hand wasn't in position for that. But I can also insert an eye hook into this action before I come to the second block. Right? It wouldn't slow me down, but it would slow my opponent down. Right? So there's a good example of how minor moves and major moves work hand in hand together. And no, you never trade an opportunity to do a major move with a minor move. We're not going to stand in front of each other and eye poke each other to death. But there are times when a minor move can be inserted without compromise. That's the whole point. That's what Shotokan people don't understand about Kenpo. We can insert minor moves without compromise. We are not slowing down. We are not trading it for a major move. All the major moves that we were going to do are all just the same. They're still there. But we have minor moves in between them that will delay you. That will make it more difficult for you as an opponent to counter me. That will occupy you and stun you. Okay? Alright, well I hope that made sense to you guys, and I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Point of origin. My name is Sascha Williams. Goodbye.